Good morning, transformative teachers. Maxine is busy today, so I'm going to do a little quick video on a topic that I feel is super important and super interesting. For me, it transformed my classrooms, and I hope it'll transfer you into a new realm of teaching possibilities and help our students as well. So, shall we find out some more about it? Let's go. So today we'll be talking about formative assessment. How many of you know what that is? Raise your hand. Oh, okay, great. Sorry, I can't see you. I think that formative assessment is one of the easiest and most useful tools for us as teachers to use in the classroom. And here's why. We're going to talk about the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how of formative assessment. And usually, when we think about assessment, we think about the end of the class. We'll take the test, we'll take the exam, there's a midterm, there's a weekly exam or quiz, and the students get graded on it. And the grade affects their self image, their learning, and their future. But what about us? What do we need to know before the exam? Formative assessment, in contrast to normative assessment, it can be used any time. It is not graded. It is useful at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of class. And it helps us teachers understand our students' understanding. And it can transform your classes and your teaching. So let's look at some examples and find out a little bit more about it. Alrighty? So this one, we'll come back to this slide later. You might get a little preview of some ideas here, but we're going to skip ahead to the problem. The problem is I've got 32 students in my class. They're all different levels. I have to teach them in only a few hours a week. Some like English and are really good at it, and some just are not very fond of English. You don't know how they're all doing. There are 32 of them. Some students answer the question right away, very fast, and some students are very quiet and don't like to say anything. And you have to come up with a lesson plan for your supervisor next Monday. These are all common problems. So the solution is formative assessment. Formative assessment is really great. As I said, it's not graded. So let's see what some other experts might have to say about it. In this book, Preparing Teachers for a Changing World, the authors, Laurie Shepard et al., say that formative assessment is assessment carried out during the instructional process for the purpose of improving teacher learning. What does that mean? It means it happens while you're teaching in the classroom. And first of all, as I emphasize, the evidence of the student learning is never graded. It is used immediately to inform your instruction to those students. And feedback from the students to the students, with the students, from the students is a critical part of the process. So formative assessment, it forms a body of information that informs our teaching. And finally, it can transform our teaching into something very fantastic. Let's look at some examples now, shall we? One typical example is the KWL chart. Are any of you using that in your classes now? I hope so. And if you are, please share how it's working with your colleagues when you get together with them. This KWL stands for know, wonder, and learned. Or some people say know, want to know, want, and learned. So for example, if we took this chart here, I might say, let's use TPR. What I know about TPR is it's very good in the classroom. It's good for language learners. It helps students feel less nervous. It affects them by increasing their listening skill, and they get to use whole body learning. Okay, wonder or want to know. What I wonder is, what techniques of TPR can I use in my classes for other topics besides language learning? How could I increase my use of TPR? And what I've learned so far is that TPR is multisensory. It can be used for verbs, nouns, adjectives, classroom commands, and students enjoy it, and it's really fun. So there's a little example of a KWL chart. Now this can be expanded in many useful ways. Let's look at a few. What I know, what I want to know, what I learned, and you can do this in a classroom exercise. Let's say you're reading a storybook about the three little pigs. Maybe what the students know might be, and do they know something about the story? Have they ever seen a pig? Do they know about the wolf? These are characters in the story. And they would brainstorm all of that information in the beginning. Next, what they want to know, you could do it as a class all together, or you could have the students do it in an individual way or in a think, pair, share. And then they would say, what do I want to know? What do I want to know about the pigs and the house that they built? And what do I want to find out? And what would I like to write at the end of the story if I changed the end of the story? Anything like that. And then at the end, the students would complete this section before they read it or after they read it. So you can use it for very precise classroom tasks or general lessons before, during, and after the class, before, during, and after the week, or before, during, and after the whole semester. And if your students are not that good at English, maybe you could use a smiley face, an emoticon, what I like, what I didn't like, and what I'm curious about. So those are very useful ways to help students start to analyze their own learning in a very user-friendly way. You can also do thumbs up, thumbs down, and not so sure. And this can be very good in the middle of a class. If you say, how many students know the answer to problem number 12? They can go like this, they can go like that, and they can do like this. Right then and there, you can see how many students in your class have a grasp on this material. Pretty useful. So you could carry this into many, many realms, many different departments of learning. What I thought I knew, what I know now, what I want to know in the future, what I've learned so far, and what I still don't know. Well, that list would cover the whole paper, I'm afraid. But anyway, these are all techniques that you might want to consider. So now, think about this and how you might use it in your classroom. what kinds of questions, what kinds of drawings, what kind of smiley faces. And if you have some good examples, you might think about those too, so that when you meet up with your classmates and your participants, you can all share some of those ideas. So now, next, we have one of my favorite forms of formative assessment coming up. Can you guess what it is? No? All right, let's see what my favorite is. Exit tickets. The exit ticket is an excellent way of checking your students' knowledge every day before they even get out of the door. So, for example, let's say we're talking about the story, The Three Little Pigs. So, students cannot leave the classroom until they actually answer your question on the exit ticket. They have to give you that piece of paper before they leave the room. So you could ask them to write, what is my favorite moment, or I liked this part, smiley face, or I don't understand, or draw a picture of your favorite character, or whatever you want. Then, as they exit the class, they have to hand that ticket to you. You collect them. Suddenly, you have 28 or 35 little assessments of who liked what, who's still confused, and what you can think about for further instruction tomorrow. And you can ask whatever your mind tells you that you need to know from all these 30 individual students. Then you just adjust your lesson plan accordingly. It's really helpful. So here's another example of a great exit ticket. We call this one 3, 2, 1, go. So for example, things you might do is 3 things I remember from class today, 2 things I learned today, and 1 thing I still don't understand. This really helps you check if the students have learned something and what they remember. So that's just one example. And if you do a search on the internet for formative assessment, or KWL, or exit tickets or exit slips, sometimes they call them exit slips, you'll find hundreds of wonderful ideas. So just have at it and go and check these ideas out. And maybe you can even find a new and more wonderful idea to use in your classroom for your English language learners. And remember, on the exit ticket, you can also use the good old smiley face emoticons. They're so fun. So now we have an exit ticket for you. All right. So what is one area in your teaching you feel confident about? 3, 2. What is one area in your teaching you would like to improve? And 1. What do you love about teaching? Here's your exit ticket for today's class. So be sure to write down your answers and send them over to us. And we'll be delighted to get your exit ticket, maybe a little bit delayed because of the internet, but we still feel like you're here in our class with us. So 3, 2, 1, go. And think about this too. What other questions do you have about using formative assessment in your classes? Maybe you have some other ways you'd like to try them, or you're nervous about collecting them, or you don't know how to make the forms. Think about that and brainstorm some ideas for yourselves to talk with each other about in the future. Okay, thank you for that. And this is all we have for today. So happy teaching, happy learning, and happy formative assessments. Yay! Bye. I love formative assessments. They're so great. Okay, bye now.